Time left, so let's look at member statements. Now, member statements in the National Assembly is one of those tools MPs have to bring matters to national interest under the executive's attention. Many of the issues raised during these statements have to do with the situation on the ground in constituencies, but it also deals with national and international issues. We pick up on a statement from the ANC benches highlighting the plight of children falling victim to sexual offenders.
South Africa is currently faced with significant challenges related to sexual offences perpetrated against children. The Constitution clearly stipulates in Section 28(1)(d) that children have the right to be protected from maltreatment, neglect, abuse, or degradation. The scourge in incidents of sexual violence perpetrated against children is clearly an indictment of children's rights. There appears to be an escalating number of incidents reported in the media recently, such as that of the 17-year-old girl with a disability from Soweto who was gang raped. The issue of missing children continues to be a problem in South Africa. Recently reported by the Sowetan Daniel Kanila Geisma, a 9-year-old girl from Eersterust near Mamelodi in Pretoria, who went missing on Saturday afternoon, and her body was subsequently found in the family's deep freeze by police, leading to the arrest of her 48-year-old stepfather. Despite the sound constitutional imperatives that pertain to children's rights and legislation in place, these rights may not always be protected, fulfilled, and/or promoted. We hope and plead that justice is done and that the perpetrators face the full might of the law.
Alfred Khanare of the Congress of the People crossed swords with the Minister of State Security, Dr. Siyabonga Cwele. He accused the Minister of interfering in the affairs of the NCOP ad hoc committee dealing with the protection of state information. He drew a sharp response from Minister Cwele, who accused him of misleading the public and the House.
Muzzle and block amendments to the Protection of State Information Bill cannot be ignored by the National Assembly. The disruption of the committee in the NCOP is what happens when arrogance and utter disdain for the institution of Parliament becomes entrenched in a governing party who is at war with itself. The Constitution provides for a distinct separation of powers between the three arms of state: the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. Several rulings by the Constitutional Court have reaffirmed the doctrine of separation of powers as enshrined in our Constitution. However, when the NCOP ad hoc committee dealing with the Protection of State Information Bill met to process amendments presented by all parties, amendments largely influenced by the multitude of representations made by civil society groups and supported by the majority of the MPs in the NCOP committee, including the ANC MPs, Minister Cwele, through his department, rejected the proposed amendments to provide greater protection to whistleblowers, to remove all minimum prison sentences from the bill, and to narrow the definition of national security. Deputy Speaker, all MPs sign an oath of office to respect and uphold the Constitution. Section 44(4) compels MP to, and open quote, when exercising its legislative authority, Parliament is bound only by the Constitution and must act in accordance with and within the limits of the Constitution, close quote. The message from COPE to Minister Cwele and his departmental official is to back off and allow the NCOP and the National Assembly to amend the secrecy bill without any further interference by the executive arm of the state.
The truth is, as a department, we were invited by the committee to comment on what issues which were raised during the public hearing and their consideration as a committee. As a department, we respected that committee and we went there twice. We were invited by the committee twice to make such responses. And we did make those responses. On the last meeting, Deputy Speaker, the committee concluded that they'll consider all these, including our input, which had alternatives. On issues where we agreed with the committee, we said so. On issues where we cautioned the committee, we provided alternative in order to solve those. The committee agreed to adjourn the meeting so that they can go and consider those, because the COPE and this new mother, the DA, they've got these tantrums of sitting in committee, agree, but then run outside the committees and make these statements. Since yesterday, they've been trying to make these false accusations. The chairperson of the committee, Mr. Dow, in the NCOP, responded correctly yesterday to put the matter at rest. So, we would like just to emphasize that the member is misleading the public and this House with his post.
Lance Greyling of the ID, who is also the Shadow Minister of Energy, urged government to regularly revise its energy plan, specifically with regard to the debate on nuclear energy.
The global energy sector is an extremely dynamic one, characterized by emerging technologies and fast-changing cost curves. It is therefore vital that the decisions we take over our energy plan is awake to these changing dynamics, so as to avoid locking ourselves into a future which could make us globally uncompetitive. In this regard, we should be constantly reviewing and, where necessary, revising our 20-year energy plan. The National Planning Commission calls for this approach and specifically argues for us to debate the financial viability of our proposed nuclear build program. Despite this call, though, the Minister and the ANC government have refused to open up this debate and seem determined to push ahead with the program regardless of its financial consequences for the country. It is absurd that Treasury has not done a financial viability study on this program and that we have not been able to properly debate it in Parliament. The ID also calls upon the Minister to table in Parliament South Africa's Integrated Nuclear Infrastructure Review, which was completed as part of the International Atomic Energy Agency's requirement.
And that's it for today, this week, and this second term of the parliamentary year. A View from the House will be back on the 7th of August with plenary sessions in the National Assembly resume. Thank you for watching. And if you go on holiday, enjoy it and join us again in August. Until then, goodbye.